welcome back to Edgy Reviews. So today I figured it's finally time to do the Bushlore series review. There have been countless reviews on the Bushlore, and a lot of them are kind of initial reviews, or they've used it for like a year, but not several years. And this knife has been out for so long, and it's still, I believe, you could ask Joe Flowers to confirm this. I think he would agree. This has been their best seller, this series knife. So here's the mini, and here's the full size. Let's talk about these a little bit. Well, with these knives, I started out with the full size Bushlore, and you know, looking at the handle scales and stuff like that, it looked like it was a pretty bushcrafty knife right off the bat, and I remember hearing some good things about it. But just before this was released, the grind used to stop right about here, and so this is the model right after that. And I mean, like, I was surprised that I got one that had a grind that went all the way back. It's when they fixed the problem with the grind, and it doesn't actually go back to the wood scales, but it comes very close. And so this is a earlier model Bushlore. And same thing with the mini here. The mini comes back just about to the wood scales. And I remember getting it and I thought, man, that handle's huge. It's a really long handle. And it is. I'm 6'5", 200 pounds. And I got a little bit on top and a little bit on bottom. But after using it for the last few years, I kind of figured out, you know what? It's enough for most people, and it's plenty enough for some people. It's a little bit long. Some folks that like to choke up here, kind of like I do, there's a good amount hanging out there. But when you're doing different cuts, like if you're doing chest lever, and you have there's different ways to do chest lever, but if you do chest lever the way I do, then there actually is enough for you to get a full meaty grip on there. Small Bushlore handle. I first got it and I thought, man, this isn't much of a neck knife. This thing's a chunker. And of course, it comes with leather sheaths. Both these came with leather sheaths, and I immediately disposed of those, sold them, and then got some Kydex. It's not because I hate leather. I actually like leather, but for knives that are going to be out in the elements and stuff like that, especially carbon knives, I wanted Kydex, and things that touch blood and all that. I don't like keeping bloody knives in sheaths. So sometimes when you're working with stuff or cleaning up a fish or something, Kydex just wins out for me. So just an opinion matter. But anyways, I got this mini Bushlore after that, and I was like, man, this handle is kind of a chunker, but it's fantastic. You want a thick handled knife, especially if you have bigger hands. And I can actually master all of my fingers, not within the divots there, but on the handle, still touching wood. I can get all my 4 fingers on there. It's very important. Lynn Thompson of Cold Steel recently came out with a video explaining how he believed that was very important. He redesigned the mini Pendleton Hunter to fit that standard as well, and I would agree with him on that particular matter, that fitting all your fingers on there is extremely important. Trying to work with 3 fingers and 1 on the back, it tends to give you a lot of hot spots. It gets annoying. So after, and I'm going to try to make this a quick review, I'm not going to beat any dead horses. Over the many years, yes, the handle scale thickness on here is pretty good. I would have, personally, I would have left this a little thicker right up here instead of bringing it down. But remember, this is a mass-produced knife that's going to fit many people's hands, and that's the whole intention here, guys. Is it's not a custom knife; it's for many people's hands. And so what they did is they necked it down a little bit, and it fits most people pretty well. For me, I would have left it a little thicker here. When I bought Condor blanks and made my own knives and sold those as a custom knife, I always did a Coke bottle shape with a thick handle. And the thick handle, I preferred it a little more. It worked better. Even if it wasn't pretty sometimes, it just worked better. But that being said, thousands of hours of cutting on this handle. Not sure if I'm ashamed to say that or not, but thousands of hours. And it worked really, really well. I still use it all the time. It is rusting up. If you look at that handle, you can see the dark spots. The carbon is rusting there. With this knife and the mini here, they both got patinas, and the patinas are, you know, multiple times now have come off. It just happens when you sharpen and you use a knife hard and you baton or anything like that. It does eventually wear away that patina, but I re-patina them, and the handle, it just rusts. I kind of deal with it. It's not the end of the world to me. I love the drop point design. This kind of thing, I even added to it a little bit over the years. Kind of took off more material there. It's very centerline on both the knives. It's a very centerline. It's real great for making bow drills. And I just find that it guides and it points real well. If I'm going to poke into something, it's right where I think it's going to poke in. Not that that's the biggest deal, but I just prefer that in most of my bush knives and woodworking knives. My baby's crying. I'll be right back. It's amazing that I get anything done ever. All right, if you have kids, you're gonna understand what I mean. Let's balance you out. Okay, so why did the Condor Bushlore not remain my primary knife? Let's talk about the side that's less favorable. Handle is pretty good, just a little bit less favorable side is the steel. 1075, as a matter of opinion, is just a little too soft for me. You know, I definitely gravitate towards carbon steels a lot of the time, but it's just really soft. I've been able to bend the steel in my tip, and I don't know if you'll be able to see it in this lighting, but I've been able to bend some of the steel in there, and I'm not doing like crazy prying or anything like that. Most of the time, some carving in harder woods, and you know, this has seen some dried apple wood and things like that, which is incredibly hard. Dried elm, just a lot of those hardwoods, they can really mess up a scanty if you do it wrong. And so I just noticed that this one bends more than other knives, even like the Moras. That's kind of the thing, is it bends more than the Moras. I appreciate the broadness of this blade. I appreciate the higher grind for biting in. I appreciate the handle quite a bit. And I would have left it a little thicker, but I appreciate it quite a bit. And the point, the look, if you care about that kind of crap, the look of it is pretty cool. It's just that steel. You know, you're not going to be knocking sparks off this, by the way. It's a little too soft. Maybe not enough higher carbon content is what I'm trying to say. So you're not going to be using it like that. I don't do that anyways, but even off the fire steel, which of course I can make it work with the fire steel. I don't have a huge amount of problem, but it just seems to me that it doesn't hold the edge quite long enough for me. You know, guys in El Salvador, they use these kind of things, I'm assuming anyways, from what Joe Flower says, and they just put a thicker edge on it and it'll last longer. But here in the States, I think we like to keep our knives pretty sharp all the time. I mean, like shaving sharp, we like it always like that. And if that's what you want, you just need a harder steel. 1075 is a little too soft. And that's why I think Condor, this last year at SHOT Show, is introducing some 1095. I think it's their first time introducing that 1095. Still a great knife, and ultimately, my opinion would be that this is the greater knife of the two, even though I've used this knife more because I think it's fun. I like the look of it. This Kydex sheath makes it very convenient for carry in lots of different ways with the tech lock. This knife and the neck knife configuration, this can do a lot of the junk that this can do, and the handle is still phenomenal. It doesn't give me a whole lot of hot spots. A little bit, because it doesn't quite fill up the palm. I get all my fingers in there, but it doesn't go past my palm, so you're not going to be doing chest levers and junk like that with it, but it's pretty close. And if I just didn't want to bring a lot of gear or was concerned about weight, between the two, this just seems like the victory. Same steel, same shape, same overall capability. I've raised that grind line over the years because when you sharpen it, you do remove kind of a lot of material if you kind of reprofile it. So that's happened. It's brought up that grind line quite a bit. It's a little bit convex now because I didn't understand how to use belts to sharpen scanties at one point, and so it's a little bit convexed. I like it actually more now than when I first immediately got it, which is kind of funny. But it just couldn't remain that primary knife, and so I started pursuing other knives. Probably last year, I started looking at some of their blades and using them quite a bit more. I still use these knives a lot, and I've taken them on trips. I took one on a trip last year. and I don't take like 12 blades on trips like some people do for reviewing purposes. I usually just take 1 or 2, usually 2, and these blades still come with. Sometimes they're great blades. Everybody who uses them really likes the handle, they dig that, and I cut myself really bad last week. And super glued the finger back together here. You know, it's still sharp, still a great blade, but yeah, I think we're gonna have to see more of the 1095 before I make another purchase of this kind of stuff. Condor seems like a pretty decent company. I think they hear from their consumers better than a lot of companies do. Good company, just not my favorite blades now that I'm trying some other steels. Ultimately, price, these could be had when I bought it between 30 and 40 bucks. Mine was definitely right around that $30 price point, and this was like 25. 100% worth it still at this point. If you can get it around that price, these knives are absolutely worth it. They're full tang. They have a very unique, different kind of handle, hardwood. Some good materials that are made. The sheath alone kind of makes it worth it, guys. Really quality sheaths. This is my sheath, and I like this more, but the leather was great. If you could only get one, here's what I'm going to recommend. Go with the Mini. The Mini can do a lot of the things that the full size can do, and it's just cheaper, and it's more all around usable for me. If I only could have one and I had to sell one, I would sell the full size actually and go with the Mini. Edge reviews, multi-year review of the Condor Bushlore series. Thanks for coming into my channel. Appreciate your views, your shares, subscribes. Let me know if there's anything else that you think I should review, and I'll consider it.